let me get rid of our POW banner. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Bo. Hope you guys are doing good today. It's Jeremiah 52, wrapping up the book. And that means we're all POW'd out, meaning that's why we have the All POW Day sign, banner right there. All POW, meaning we're done. When I lived in Kauai, that's what we used to say when we finish painting a house, actually. We'd say, POW out, meaning we're done. That's it. Let's go. And so we get to finish the book of Jeremiah today. My name is Bo Willett. Thanks for joining me on the devotion. I'm in early this morning, which is kind of cool, and going to finish the book early. And so let's see. You can always check out the entire book at my YouTube channel. And it's just my personal YouTube. Go to YouTube and go into the search bar and type in my name. And then you'll get to my whole page and you'll see the playlists there. And there's a bunch of books of the Bible. I just go through the Bible in my devotions. That's kind of how I roll. That's how I like to do it. And it helps me just understand God, understand kind of the flow of the scriptures. And it's all leading, when we read it, it's all leading up to something. It just keeps pressing us forward to find this Messiah, right? Until this revealing of Messiah. We get a lot of information about who this person is, all the way from like page 2 of the Bible, from the book of Genesis, all the way on to Jeremiah. There's just this constant thread that the God of the Bible is really the God of the entire planet, and that everybody on earth is accountable to this God. And that this God is a holy deity, meaning there's no darkness at all, no taintedness, no impurity of any kind. But something has happened to us as his creation. We were once in the right, but it's a time that we cannot recall, and we can't go back to that. We have been tainted, not only us, but it seems like the entire planet and galaxies and everything has been, the entire created cosmos has been tainted, and meaning things die and decay. And this was not the case at the beginning. So there was what's called the fall. And ever since then, there's been a mission of redemption and a thread of redemption that has been flowing through these scriptures. So the last part of Jeremiah goes like this. So let's read it. And this is talking about the fall of Jerusalem. So Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. His mother was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah from Libnah. But Zedekiah did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as Jehoiakim had done. So this is kind of something we saw in the historical books, like the book of Kings, 1st and 2nd Kings. This kind of idea of how did the king of Israel do? How did the king of Judah do? Did they do good? Did they do bad? Well, here it tells us that Zedekiah wasn't really a good king, evil. It's kind of weird, but Jesus said, if you being evil know how to give good gifts to your kids, it's kind of weird to think that the good that I try to do for my children that are big, right, is evil. Just think if you heard Jesus say that to you. Hey, if you being evil know how to give good gifts to your children, man, that I think would offend a lot of people. I mean, man, you're saying I'm good, but yet what I'm doing who I am is evil. We don't like that kind of thing, but evil is a distortion of the good. It's not something on its own. It is like I said, a distortion of that which is good. So it's not its own creation, so to speak. And, so maybe if Jesus is truly right, then maybe I am evil. And that's really something to grasp. And that I need redeeming. And that I need saving. That there is some kind of distortion within me and within you and within this world of decay and sickness, right? And death. Now, when I look at the world, you might fight that thought, by the way, and go, no, we're all good. But the problem is we're not all good. Things fall apart. Hurricanes happen. Earthquakes take place. All kinds of things happen, right? Our bodies fall apart. Things go on in our bodies that are wrong. One organ's messed up. This one's messed up. All kinds of things happen. Our brains go south. Man, I mean, there's so much happening that leads to our utter demise. And even our, friendships, family life, things like that decay. I mean, have you ever met anybody who's had a relationship go south? We all have. We all realize this. There is a distortion, right? Something is definitely amiss. We try to do right and don't do very well. So this is the idea of evil, right? Which is, again, a tough one for a lot of us to kind of wrap our heads around. And Zedekiah did what was evil. His behavior was evil. Gosh, there's things I got to take to the Lord too, knowing that they're not that great, and I'm sure you do too. And it says that these things happened because the Lord's anger against the people of Jerusalem and Judah, until he finally banished them from his presence and sent them into exile. So the idea of getting out of the land is, in a sense, a banishment from, in a sense, the presence of God. The idea is very similar, and it's a theme again throughout the scriptures. Adam and Eve moved out of Eden, right? And then you see this idea of Israel moved out of the land of Israel, right? Especially Jerusalem, the place where the temple's at. It says, Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. So on January 15th, during the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon led his entire army against Jerusalem. They surrounded the city and built the siege ramps against its walls. Jerusalem was kept under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah's reign. By July 18th, in the 11th year of Zedekiah's reign, the famine in the city had become very severe, and the last of the food was entirely gone. Then a section of the city wall was broken down, and all the soldiers fled. Since the city was surrounded by the Babylonians, they waited for nightfall. Then they slipped through the gate between the two walls behind the king's garden and headed toward the Jordan Valley. But the Babylonian troops chased King Zedekiah and caught him on the plains of Jericho, for his men had all deserted him and scattered. They took him to the king of Babylon at Riblah in the land of Hamath. There the king of Babylon pronounced judgment upon Zedekiah. He made Zedekiah watch as they slaughtered his sons and all the other officials of Judah, and they gouged out Zedekiah's eyes, bound him in bronze chains, and led him away to Babylon. Zedekiah remained there in prison until the day of his death. It's just a really bummer kind of history of Zedekiah. Man, the demise, right? The rebellion. Hey, I'm not going to listen to God. I'm going to go my way, and I'm going to run. And he runs, and he gets chased down. Jeremiah, we saw, had told him, hey, man, don't be doing this. But he does it anyway. And he goes his direction, and whenever we go our direction, man, we got our ego, our will, or, and just all this stuff. We just tend to get into a lot of trouble, right? We go down the wrong path instead of a surrender, submission, right? Coming underneath the authority of God. Hey, if you don't want to come underneath the authority of God, you're going to come under someone's authority. You are listening to someone, you are submitting to someone, and it might be something, right? So, don't think that you're getting out of this idea of who are you going to listen to, who you're going to serve, right? Bob Dylan was right in that way. We're all going to serve somebody, And so Zedekiah gets chased down, and, hey, we too, man, we'll reap what we sow as well. And that's something we got to come to grips with in our life too, and just go, yep, and be honest before God and say, God, I am too, So Zedekiah, gosh, it's so sad, right? All of his people desert him. They all go away. And that's true in life, right? People will no longer be hanging out with you. People no longer will like you. People will no longer go your direction. They're going to go other ways. Yeah, sometimes we just can't trust in humans to do, if you will, to stay with you. Humans go astray. And that's the bummer, like in a marriage or something, you've been with someone for a long time, and then there's like this going astray. Oh man, no fun. It says the temple destroyed on August 17th of that year, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar's reign. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard and the official of the Babylonian king, arrived in Jerusalem. He burned down the temple of the Lord, the royal palace, and all the houses of Jerusalem. He destroyed all the important buildings in the city. When he supervised the entire Babylonian army as they tore down the walls of Jerusalem on every side. Man, this is brutal. Just think what it was like to record this, right? The destruction, the famine that's taking place, the destruction of Jerusalem, the people of Jerusalem, but now the actual walls of Jerusalem, right? It says on every side they were tore down. And Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, then took as exiles some of the poorest of the people. The rest of the people who remained in the city, the defectors who had declared their allegiance to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the craftsmen. But Nebuzaradan allowed some of the poorest people to stay behind in Judah to care for the vineyards in the fields. The Babylonians broke up the bronze pillars in front of the Lord's temple, the bronze water carts, and the great bronze basin called the sea, and they carried away the bronze away to Babylon. They also took the ash buckets, shovels, lamp suffers, basins, dishes, and all the other bronze articles used for making sacrifices at the temple. So the temple is being destroyed. The people of Israel are being taken out of the presence of God, kind of idea. And the temple is no longer. They boasted in that temple. They said, man, the temple's so awesome. Man, nothing's going to happen to us ever. But yet, yes. Yeah, it's, sometimes we like to think, oh man, I'm on God's side, so everything's going to go great. Well, God's no fool, and God cannot be mocked. Whatever a person sows, that he also reaps. And man, what a true statement that is, right? And sometimes maybe we're, in a sense, disillusioned, right? To think that, oh, that'll never happen to me. But man, it could. And maybe I gotta, really think through things. And maybe I gotta really watch my life, and, just be honest about where my failures are. Instead of just covering them up as like, oh, no, God's on my side. Some people, you talk to them and it sounds like that. They're like, oh, Jesus, and it kind of prevents them from just being honest, right? You might have seen that before. Instead of just being real, instead it's almost like they're under some weird magic spell or something. I just find that kind of interesting. Well, the people now see the tearing down of what they thought could never be tore down. Man, what they thought could never, ever happen, happens. And the temple goes down. And that's the end of verse 19. How, articles made of gold go. It says, the weight of those bronze from the pillars of the sea with the 12 bronze oxen beneath it, the water carts, was too great to be measured. These things had been made for the Lord's temple in the days of King Solomon. Each of the pillars was 27 feet tall and 18 feet in circumference. They were hollow with walls 3 inches thick. The bronze capital on top of each pillar was 7.5 feet high and was decorated with a network of bronze pomegranates all the way around. There were 96 pomegranates on the side. Hey, I kind of remember eating pomegranates in California. And the total of 100 on the network around the top. So we haven't got into the tabernacle much, or the articles of the temple or tabernacle. But here we see that they were in full effect during the time of Jeremiah. And they are getting carted to Babylon. Wow. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took with him as prisoners Seraiah, the high priest, Zephaniah, the priest of the second rank, and the 3 chief gatekeepers. And from among the people still hiding in the city, he took an officer who had been in charge of the Judean army, 7 of the king's personal advisors, the army's commander's chief secretary, who was in charge of recruitment, and 60 other citizens. Man, they really took some people. The politicians, the people in charge, the commander of the kind of an army, this kind of thing. They took all kinds of people, captive, if you will. Took him prisoner, right, to take him to Babylon. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took all to the king of Babylon at Riblah. And there at Riblah, in the land of Hamath, the king of Babylon had them all put to death. Woo! So those ones that kind of held out long, man, seemed like they got it the worst. Jeremiah said they would. He said, hey, you guys should go. You guys should go. You guys should just go with Babylon. Those that resisted, man, it really got it. So the people of Judah were sent into exile from their land. The number of the captives taken to Babylon in the 7th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign was 3,023. Then in Nebuchadnezzar's 18th year, he took 832 more. In Nebuchadnezzar's 23rd year, he sent Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, who took 745 more, a total of 4,600 captives in all. Unbelievable, man. I love the detail. I mean, gosh, I'm no historian guy, but man, it must be really cool to kind of maybe have a really good understanding of the history of the region and the time period. And, use these texts to really hone in on your studies or the things that you're doing, your digging or whatever you're doing, in your field. And that's the cool thing about the Bible. If you sometimes go to college, or if you go to college, you might take a class that they sometimes offer, biblical archaeology. And the reason why it's cool is because the Bible's filled with places, people, language. So I find it cool. So it says in the 37th year of the exile of King Jehoiachin of Judah, evil Merodach ascended to the Babylonian throne. He was kind to Jehoiachin and released him from prison on March 31st of that year. He spoke kindly to Jehoiachin and gave him a higher place than all the other exile kings of Babylon. He supplied Jehoiachin with new clothes to replace his prison garb, and allowed him to dine in the king's presence for the rest of his life. You know what I love about that section is though Jehoiachin doesn't deserve this kind of treatment, man, he gets it. And it says he is allowed to dine in the king's presence the rest of his life. I see a parallel there, and I'm sure you do too. When you come to Jesus, you're coming to what the Bible calls the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Now, this is a title for God, the idea that God is a king. We've seen that in Jeremiah. Yeah, he's the King of Israel. And yet Jesus is called what? The King of Israel, because he is the Messiah. He is the fulfillment of all of these promises that Yahweh would once come to the planet and judge his people and redeem them and deal with their sins once and for all. Jesus is the fulfillment of this. He is the deity in human flesh. God in human flesh, right? Yeah. In him is the fullness of the deity in bodily form. That's what it says in the book of Colossians. Yeah. So it's so interesting that when we are redeemed and when we put our faith in Jesus, we, in a sense, get a chair at the table with the king. And, there's an interesting passage in the book of Luke, I'm pretty sure, that states that one day we will be sitting at that table. And lo and behold, the servant, the one who serves us at that table, will be Jesus. Meaning, not only is Jesus the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords and your Redeemer, He is a God who loves you. He is the God who loves you and dies for you. I mean, think of that. He loves you and dies for you. Man, no government politician is going to love and die for you, right? And give their riches to you, right? And replace your rags with their riches. But Jesus gives you His righteous life. He gives you the blameless status before the Father. You are like a son, a daughter. You can come into the house through Jesus. But He also lives to serve you. Yeah, He serves you. And He serves me at the King's table. Man, radical. You think it would be the other way around, that we would be serving Him. But Jesus forever stays true to His own words. I have not come to be served, but to serve and give my life as a ransom for many. Man, that is powerful. That's a love. The reason why it's powerful, it's because it's a love we just don't see, right? It's not the norm, that kind of love. Usually the person who's the prestigious one, right, the honorable one, usually is the one who is served by the servants. But yet Jesus is forever the servant king. And we get to dine at His table. And He serves us. Woo! That's cool. Something to think about, right? Today. We have a servant king. And it says, so Jehoiachin was allowed to dine in the king's presence for the rest of his life. And so the Babylonian king gave him regular food allowance as long as he lived, and this continued till the day of his death. So very cool. That's how it ends, on that servant king notice, right? That kind of idea that I kind of laid out there. Jehoiachin is able to dine with the king, and we too are able to dine. And what did Jesus say? Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears, opens up the door, I will come in and what? Dine with him. Isn't that cool? He will come in and dine with you. So that's how Jeremiah ends. A very cool book. Man, 24 years of preaching. Not many people listening to him. But a real perseverance and dedication to the call of giving people the right news. And the good news, right? That God was going to redeem them. And God will restore them. And so Israel, the southern kingdom now, gets taken away. Wow. So we'll have to see what happens. Well, we got one more book of Jeremiah to go, and that's the book of Lamentations. And we'll start that tomorrow. So you guys have a great day, and thanks for being with me through the book of Jeremiah. We'll talk to you guys later, okay? Bye-bye.